Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Dominions 5. My name is General Confusion, as always, and today we are going to start a whole new campaign. Now, I know what you're going to say, but I already have several campaigns going, and that's true. The reason we're going to start a new one is because a new nation has just come out, the nation of Mekone, or Mekone, possibly. I'm not honestly sure how to pronounce Greek names, but Mekone, I'm going to call it Mekone for now, is a nation based on Sparta, mixed with general Greek mythology. And the main conceit, the main twist there, is that the Spartan, the military caste, is giants. So it's a giant nation with human slaves. So we are going to start a campaign as them. It's going to be fairly brief, but I've hopefully long enough just to show off some of the things Mekone can do. They are a very interesting faction. We're going to set up wraparounds to make things more interesting and complicated. We're going to call this game, of course, Mekone. And Mekone is an early age nation. The developer has said there is going to be a middle and late age version of this civilization as well, so it'll be very interesting to see how those progress. We're going to have a total of 5 nations, so a little longer perhaps than my Fomoria campaign, but not too much, and we are going to choose Mekone, the Brazen Giants. Mekone is a marvelous city inhabited by arrogant and warlike Gigantes who have enslaved their neighbors and declared war upon the gods of men. To their aid, they have the crafts of the elder Cyclops. And we'll leave the others random. So we'll get to take a look at the nation right now. So, we have witnessed the fall of the Telchines and the injustices done to the races of old. With the aid of the elder Cyclopes, the Gigantes of Mekone have taken it upon themselves to rid the world of the gods of men. Most of Mekone's population consists of human slaves, helots. The population of human slaves is discontent, and unrest will increase in all forts. This is a reference to a very interesting national event that Mekone gets every year. In any case, here's the interesting part. So we have Gigantes armed with magical weapons. They are very few. We have no sacred troops whatsoever. If we look at our Gigante units, their stats are fantastic. They do tons of damage. They have these gleaming armors that have 18 protection, although a defense penalty and encumbrance. They are magical, so they can't be destroyed by spells like destruction, at least not easily. It gives them a lot of protection. Their magic resistance and morale are both high. Their attack skill and defense skill are both high. They do have relatively limited map move, but overall they're very, very good, and their golden spear does magic damage, so they can destroy ethereal units very, very easily. The downside is you can only recruit 4 of these guys a turn in your capital, period. And outside your capital and other forts, you can only recruit 1 per turn. The same goes for your other giant units, the Giganti Ekstromos, which have less protection, but otherwise are basically the same. They are skirmishers, so they don't get a penalty when fighting in skirmish formation. And the Discobolus, who is a naked giant that throws bronze discuses, which is kind of a fascinating ability. They also have decent melee attacks. It's unfortunate their protection is nothing, but later on in the game when they're able to be buffed, these might actually be very solid, especially as they cost almost no resources. The rest of your army is human slaves. So we have Helot Peltasts, which are slave units that have very low morale, and otherwise are unexceptional, low protection. Helot Ekstromos, which have decent protection, decent all around except low morale. And then Helot Hoplites. Helot Hoplites are interesting because they actually have very high protection, so they're a very solid unit. With a length 4 spear, they can do some repelling. Their map move is okay, their encumbrance is high, but that's usual for hoplites. The thing about them is they cost almost no gold and a whole bunch of resources. So recruitment of these guys is very, very much resource limited, much like your recruitment of Giganti. Hoplites early on will be resource limited because they take 75 resources each. In conjunction, what this means is the best troops you have are very highly resource limited. Helot Ekstromos are a little less resource limited, but still similar. So you really, really need a ton of production as Mekone. That's the first thing you notice looking at them, is you desperately need production. We also got to get these Peroeki Peltasts, which have a little higher morale because they are free men. But they're, they're Peltasts. They're not special. They're basically light infantry. Independent light infantry, pretty much. They do cost very few resources, so they're quite cheap. Commander-wise, we have Peroweki Scouts, which are just standard scouts. They're a little bit stealthier than standard humans. We have Neodamode Commanders, who are basically slaves who have been promoted to be free men, and these are basic commanders. They have leadership 60, otherwise unexceptional. We have Locos, which are giant commanders, and they are basically the commander unit of the hoplites, the giant hoplites. They do have Taskmaster, so they give extra morale to slaves. We have Gerontes. These are our first mages, and this brings up another interesting mechanic that Mekone has. Almost all of their mages are also priests. You can see here they have one level of fire or earth plus a holy level, and they are inquisitors, so they're doubly effective at destroying enemy dominion. Not spreading your own dominion, just destroying enemy dominion. They are also taskmasters, so they do give a bonus to slaves, and Gerontes can command some troops, and in fact they give a squad morale bonus despite having very limited leadership. So they can only have a small army, but that army will actually get bonuses and can be commanded effectively, because with 3 squads comes the ability to give special formation orders. So small armies can be led by these guys, actually. They are relatively expensive. They're not too expensive, honestly, but for what they are, with only 1 level of magic, that's a little pricey. However, since they're sacred, they do have halved upkeep. That said, Gerontes probably not going to be recruiting all that much. Your main recruitment, research, and probably also combat mage is the E4. More expensive, but a few more research points. They start with 1 fire and 1 earth, and then they get another fire, earth, or air. If they get a point of air, they're not terribly useful. If they get a point of fire, they become acceptable battle mages, able to cast Phoenix Power and then some of the higher level fire spells. If they get a point of earth, they can cast Summon Earth Power, and then cast all the big earth buffs. So they become quite useful. They are also Inquisitors, as well as old, which makes them bad combat mages because of lowered precision and higher encumbrance, and Taskmasters and Commanders and all of that. So these are actually pretty solid. Probably not great at slinging evocations because of that whole precision thing. But, although actually it still only brings them down to 10, so there's that. They might get diseases during the winter, though. But in any case, they're still pretty solid. Your main combat mage and commander, in my opinion, is going to be the Polemarch. And all of these over here can only be recruited from the capital. Mekone is very capital dependent. The Polemarch is basically a purpose-built thug chassis / battle mage. So the Polemarch, very, very expensive. 2 fire, 2 earth. 2 earth lets him cast a whole bunch of very potent buffs, either on himself or on his army. 2 fire lets him cast some potent battle magic spells, as well as summon fire elementals. He has 21 protection, 15 defense, 14 attack, and 35 hit points. Those combined are pretty solid combat stats already. You can buff his defense just a little bit, and then with high protection and high defense, he'll be very, very good, especially because he can cast Stone Skin and then Iron Skin later on to kick his protection up even higher. He has a Godslayer's Spear, which is a magical weapon that does extra fatigue damage to sacred units in a 1 square AoE. That's very interesting. Not probably terribly useful unless it's masked, but still very interesting and helps him get critical hits against gods and sacred units. And then he also has his gleaming armor, like everybody does. Massive amounts of leadership, Taskmaster 2, and Combat Caster. So in melee he can cast spells, which makes some of the fire spells, the short-range fire spells, actually reasonably useful for him. It also means his armor encumbrance fatigue is not doubled when casting spells, which is great because his armor encumbrance is pretty significant. It's, 5. So that's pretty important. The Archon is your other capital-only main recruitment mage, in my opinion. Sacred, 1 fire, 1 earth, and 2 linked randoms. So, in this case, all of them are useful. If they get 2 fire, then they're 3 levels of fire, and they can cast flaming arrows and things very easily. If they're linked earth, they're 3 earth mages who can buff themselves to 4 and then to 5 if they have earth boots, and do all kinds of crazy things with earth magic. If they have 2 air, they can cloud trapeze, which means they can teleport into enemy provinces. And in that case, since these guys are actually not old, like the Gigantes are, you can deck them out with some thug equipment, some armor, a thug weapon of some kind, and if they can cloud trapeze into enemy provinces, they can probably clear out province defense because they have giant hit points, they have decent attack and defense skill, and pretty good combat speed. So all they really need is more protection, more defense, and a weapon, and they'd be very solid. The other capital-only units, you have the Basilius. The Basilius is kind of nice, but expensive, slow to recruit, and with 2 fire, 2 earth, and then 1 random, there really isn't anything they can do that somebody else can't do. They can be 3 fire, they can be 3 earth, they only ever get 1 air. They could get a point of water, but 1 water is not terribly important. It's not super valuable to have 1 water. You need at least 2 water to start getting something interesting going. And they are old, which hurts them. So I don't see why you would ever want to recruit these guys over Archons or Polemarches. Your other capital-only mage, however, you definitely do want to cast. To recruit, rather, sorry. The Elder Cyclops. They are also slow to recruit and very expensive, but they have 2 fire, 2 earth, and 1 air naturally. They get another random in fire, earth, or air, which can kick them up to 3 in either of these or 2 air. They have Master Smith, which means that for the purposes of crafting magic items, they get an extra path, basically. Which means that if they get an Earth random, they can craft Earth 4 items. If they get an Air random, they can craft Air 3 items, etc. What this means is, any Elder Cyclops can craft the item that boosts your Earth magic to 4, the Earth Boots. If an Elder Cyclops gets an Air random, you can then empower that Cyclops once in air, which will cost some air gems, but not a truly exorbitant amount. And then, in combination with the Earth Boots, they'll be able to craft the Staves of Elemental Mastery, which is one of the most powerful elemental boosters in the game. Since all of your paths are elemental, that will be a very significant boost in capabilities. It also means you'll be able to forge like the Winged Helmet and the Bag of Winds, which are pretty powerful air items, although expensive. The other thing the Cyclops give you is extra resources. They give you 25 extra resources in the province for every Cyclops they have. So that's also pretty potent. So that's Mekone. The only other thing that they have is they have this Dominion Conflict bonus, which means they're extra good at suppressing enemy Dominion, even when there are no priests around. And then, of course, all of their priests are also Inquisitors, so there's that. Generally speaking, I'm thinking this race is probably going to lean on Polemarches to lead armies, and to take provinces on their own once a little bit of research has been done. Archons and Polemarches as battle mages, E4s as your main recruitment most of the time outside the capital, and as basic battle mages. And then you are also going to want some Elder Cyclops in the capital to forge. I don't think you're ever going to want Basilius. I don't think they do anything useful that any of the others don't, so I'm just going to leave them be. I mean, they have more leadership, but if you want leadership, you should be recruiting Polemarches anyway. They're cheaper and faster and just as good at fighting. So I think your basic strategy is basically going to be masses of hoplites, Helot and Giganti, as the case may be, as you can afford. Later on in the game, you're going to supplement those with Helot Peltasts, who can throw javelins, and Discoboluses, who can throw discs at pretty decent range, actually, backed up by flaming arrows, which will make those projectiles magical and higher damaging. And that will be pretty solid because you can spam a lot of Helot Peltasts very, very quickly. Discoboluses, less so, but you can build them up over time. They cost almost no resources, and resources are going to be your limiter, not anything else. So, oh yes, also your forts increase unrest. As I said, that's a yearly event that they get, and it's an interesting one. It also spawns a unit, which hopefully I'll show you. But so, let's start out. We have the Forge of the Cyclopses, which gives us 2 fire, 2 earth, and 100 resources. And we also have the City of Gold and Marble, Mekone itself, which gives us 1 air, 1 earth, and enables the recruitment of our other capital-only mages. So let's start the game. I already have a god loaded up. He is, of course, General Confusion. That's a test god that I created earlier. General Confusion is the eldest Cyclops himself, and we'll talk about what he has as we get into the game. We're going to make random events still rare. We're going to enable minor story events. We are going to enable the score graphs so we can see the others. And for the thrones, since we have 5 nations, we're going to require, let's say we have 5 level 1, 2 level 2, and 1 level 3 throne. We're then going to require, let's say 8 points. So you have to take all of the level 1 thrones and at least 2 others, or you have to take the level 3, both level 2, and then 1 level 1 in order to win. We're not going to enable the Cataclysm because that would just force the game to end, which, let's just let it end when it ends. Okay, let's create our map and go. I'll see you in the game. Alright, so the map generator is satisfied and we are going to start off. I'm not going to spend as much time in this episode explaining basic things as I have in previous series. I assume you all know that pretty much by now. I'm going to try and burn through about the first year as quickly as I can here. So I'm only really going to talk about Mekone's specific strategy. Recruitment-wise, so I start off with a basic commander and a Perioeki scout. I'm surrounded by woods, which is great for the resources. I do have 1 swamp, 2 swamps, some mountains. Okay, we'll be fine. Army-wise, I start off with a whole bunch of Helot hoplites and some Helot ekdromos. My very first recruitment is actually going to be a Polemarch. And that's because I think having these guys out leading expansion parties is a really solid idea. Having one of these as a prophet is probably also a really solid idea, so that he auto-blesses himself. So we're going to recruit one of him. We're also going to recruit 2, well, I can't get 2. We're going to recruit 2 Giganti ekdromos, which will eat up most of my gold, but not all of my resources. The rest of my resources I can spend on a Helot hoplite and a Helot ekdromos. The ekdromos you're going to lean on until you get more resources. You need more resources pronto, basically. I could get some disco boluses. Early in the game, I think they will generate too much attrition, basically. I think they'll be killed too easily. With that low precision attack, don't think it'll really be worth it. But that's going to be my first recruitment. I'm going to send my scout out, and my army, I'm not actually going to prophetize Polygamnon. He's not going to be my prophet, I'm just going to wait with him. Okay, so Hinnom, I have Hinnom and Nifflheim in this game. Wow, this is really going to be a competition of the giants. So we've got 2 prophets. I have recruited my first Polemarch, and he is immediately going to become the prophet. Next, I'm going to start recruiting E4s. I could recruit Gerontes, but I think E4s are generally more useful. They get 4 more research points, so they get about 30%, 40% more research, for about 50% extra gold. They're a little bit less efficient that way, but I think it's worth it. We're going to go in on some more Giganti hoplites and some Helot hoplites. Once we run out of resources, we'll toss in a couple of Helot peltasts, and we will sit with that. So Polygamnon, now we're just going to drop those troops straight into a group. In fact, we're going to drop all of our troops into one group. We're going to set them into line formation and tell them to attack the closest enemy. Polygamnon, meanwhile, is going to stand directly behind them. We're going to have him hold 1 turn and then attack. He's not faster than these troops by much. He's faster than them by a little. By holding 1 turn, I'll basically try to ensure that he isn't surrounded. So, this is a wasteland mountain, which has good resources. That is a mountain highlands, which has even better resources. But you can only go straight out from it, and I want to kind of swing around. So we're going to go to Ashlands first, and then down into Robberhome. Let's check out this little throne here and see what's what. Okay, so we've got more proclamations. Kailasa I'm not terribly scared of. That's a monkey nation. And, of course, we have our prophet, Sparkios the Polemarch. We have a battle in Ashlands. Let's view it and see how our troops do. So, we have our line here, anchored on the flanks by giants. Our commander directly behind. On the other side, we have a few light infantry, couple commanders, and literally 1 archer. So this will be a cakewalk. you notice the giants are quite a bit faster than the human hoplites, so they are going to engage first. However, they're not vulnerable in any way. These giants are very, very tough, even though they only have protection 15. 15 and defense skill of 14 is fairly significant, and when you add it to 30 hit points, they're very, very hard to kill. Size 4 is a bit of a bummer, but it does mean they can be stacked with one human unit to deflect some hits. And of course, with strength 20, any hits they dish out are unlikely to be survivable by humans. So, the enemy is routed. We have taken the Ashlands. They have only 12 resources because they have such a low population. But hey, 12 resources is 12 resources. We've got our Giganti hoplites coming out. If I cut these guys out, can I get one more? I can get one more, and they are what I want to focus on. So, Sparkios is going to research because he needs to wait just a couple of turns to get a force together. Research-wise, I start off with 1 level in Alteration, 1 in Conjuration, and 1 in Thaumaturgy. Mekone does not have much by way of national spells. They do have one. It is called Giganto Macchia. It costs 60 earth gems and requires 5 earth and 4 fire to cast. And what it does is, it increases your Dominion conflict bonus by 2, and it increases your recruitment limit in your Dominion by 1. So what that means is, in your capital, you can recruit 5 giants of each type per turn. Outside your capital, you can recruit 2 giants of each type per turn. And your Dominion is triply effective at destroying other people's Dominion. I don't know how effective that really is. I haven't tested it all that much. What it should mean is, if you have a powerful Dominion, yours will pretty much overwhelm everyone else's, which would be great. But I'm not going to go down Thaumaturgy early because, frankly, Thaumaturgy doesn't have a whole lot that I want. The only paths that Mekone have access to a lot of are fire and earth. They do have some air, but not a whole lot. So really, what I want first is Alteration. At level 2 Alteration, I get access to Stone Skin, and Stone Skin alone is enough to make my Polemarches reasonable thugs. Not terribly powerful thugs yet, but reasonable. That kicks their protection up to 27. When you add that to their natural defense and attack stats and their magical weapon, it makes them hard for basic infantry to take out. So that's where I'm going to go first. I then want Enchantment, because at Enchantment level 3 I get Fire Shield, which every Polemarch and every Fire Mage, in fact, can cast, which means anyone who attacks them takes damage. Those two spells in conjunction, I've found, make Polemarches able to pretty much solo provinces, including province defense. So those are my first research targets. My research is actually reasonably healthy, because my giants do have pretty good research per unit. As the Prophet, I'll be able to see my Bless here, so let's look at that. Naturally, I have no sacred units. All of my blessable units, as Mekone, are mages, so I've taken a Mage Bless. I took Air and Earth, 6 Earth and 4 Air. I've given myself Precision plus 4 and Reinvigoration plus 3, so I'll get 3 fatigue back per turn, and my Precision is kicked up by 4 points. What this means is my Fire and Earth mages, who are sacred, can bless themselves and then rain evocations down upon the heads of the infidel. So Polygamnon is going to head down here. This will be a little bit of a tougher fight. A few more troops here. Over here, this is all Wolf Tribe and Heavy Infantry, which is a bit of a tough nut to crack at the moment. I might have my scout attack in a turn or two and see if I can figure out exactly what's there, if they have wizards or anything, but we'll see. Okay, in Robberhome, I did lose some units there. I lost a Giganti Ekdromos, I lost 3 Helot Ekdromoses, and 1 Hoplite. So let's see how that happened. Probably, I think what happened is my giants got too far ahead of the human infantry and got surrounded. Yeah, that looks to be what happened. My giant there got completely surrounded. The human infantry came in to try and save him, but he'd already taken a lot of damage and gotten a limp, which lowered his defense enough that, yeah, he got stabbed to death. Shortly after that, the enemy infantry was routed. The archers are doing a little bit of damage because there are quite a few more of them. But okay. Overall, that still went fine. I only lost one giant. Helots I don't care all that much about. They are very cheap and easily replaceable. One interesting mechanic that Helots have is this promotion right here. When they gain 50 experience, they turn into another unit. They turn into Neodemode hoplites. And Neodemodes have higher base morale. That's the only difference. Their basic morale goes up to 10 or 11. They lose the Taskmaster bonus, but going up in morale still kicks them up by 2 or 3 points, generally speaking. And of course, at that point, they have enough experience that their attack is better and their defense is better, and they're pretty solid units once they promote. So, Polygamnon is now going to swing over here into that swamp. Up here, I want to wait one more turn. I'm going to get one more turn's worth of hoplites. 47 resources here. If I take out one of him, I could get a couple of Ekdromos and a few more Peltasts, just to kind of stand in front and soak up fire. I have 2 Fire 2 mages, which is great. My research is doing pretty well. We're going to end one more turn, and then Sparkios is going to go off to fight. I won't quite have Alteration 2 yet, but as the Prophet, he'll still be tough enough to do it. My scout over here, still wandering around, got some wolf tribe. Okay, we also have Oceania in this game, so that's an aquatic faction. I have no way of getting under the water, so I will ignore them and hope they don't become a problem. Over here, this is just light infantry and archers. I don't anticipate it being an issue. This is what I like. When the giants and the infantry attack together, they're very difficult to stop. I wish someone would turn and attack those archers. There we go. The commanders are running, the archers are getting mowed down, everything is peachy. I lost 2 more Ekdromos. You can definitely see the difference that armor makes. The Ekdromos have exactly the same attack as the hoplites, but the hoplites are consistently getting a lot more kills and taking a lot fewer casualties. You can also see the Locos is alone doing a lot of damage, as is the one surviving giant Ekdromos. So I'm starting to get enough resources here that I can do some good. This army is going to join up under Sparkios. We're going to have an infantry unit and a skirmishing unit. These guys are going to be in line formation, and they will attack the closest enemy. These guys will be up front, and they will fire at the closest enemy. Yeah, it's okay if the human infantry gets left behind. As I said, I don't have any great spells yet, and he is automatically blessed. So, I will simply cast Holy Avenger, and then attack the closest enemy. I do want Sparkios to be a little bit behind the troops, so I am going to set him to cast that one spell before he goes in. And he... that's 70 units, that's 30 units. I think I'll send Polygamnon to take that province. He hasn't leveled up yet, interestingly. I wish he had. And Sparkios to take that province. So it is now late summer. We're doing okay expansion-wise. We've taken 3 provinces. We're about to move to taking 2 per turn. And I think we'll be able to keep that up for a while. I keep forgetting to move my scout. I have found Hinnom over here in Snowford. So there is a giant nation fairly close to me. This map is just one landmass surrounded by water, with a couple of little inland lakes. It would be hilarious if once again Oceania had spawned in an inland lake, but I don't wish that on them. I don't wish that on anybody. Hopefully we'll be able to take that throne pretty soon, too. Okay, Jelenia Gora. This is my smaller, more giant-heavy army, so you can see just at first blush how different this army is. We've got the giant hoplites here with their higher attack, much higher damage, and slightly higher protection than the Helot hoplites. 21 versus 17. It's not a huge difference, it is a pretty significant difference. They also have much higher morale because their basic morale is so much better. I didn't want to look at you. So Sparkios has got his Holy Avenger on. The giants form actually a very solid line. They don't do damage very quickly when they're not intermixed with humans, because they only have 1 per square. But they're very, very tanky. They're very hard to kill, and they last a very, very long time. So we've routed the enemy armies. We did lose our 2 Ekdromos. Our hoplites, on the other hand, The 7 of them killed almost the entire enemy army. Well, they killed half of the enemy army alone. So they're doing very, very solidly. In Bright Woods, our little mostly human army, let's see how they fared. Got some light and some heavy infantry. That Ekdromos might go down. He is very, very wounded. He's got a chest wound and a never healing wound. Ugh. But he does have some experience, and nope, he's doing fine. He is staying alive. And the commander is going it alone to try and kill some of these archers, but he doesn't get any kills before they run. So in Bright Woods, I lost 1 Helot Hoplite. Unexpected event in Mekone. It is early fall. So this is that national event I was talking about. Autumn come, the Ephoroi of the city have declared war upon the Helot population. Fun fact, this is a historical thing that Sparta did. The youth of the Spartan warrior caste would go around basically just murdering slaves. And they were encouraged to do so by themselves, by stealth, just naked with daggers, as part of their training. And it was kind of a way to terrorize the slave population and keep them in line. So, at Mekone, unrest has gone up because the young'uns are going around murdering people. And Polygamnon has now become a hero. So you can see my unrest is now 30 here. And he has enormous strength. So his strength has gone up to 23, which isn't a huge bonus for him, being as he's already a giant, but it is something. Recruiting here, I now have a whole bunch more resources. So, I'm going to take my Ekdromos and swap them out for Hoplites. And I'm going to take my Helots and keep recruiting Helot Peltasts. 2 more turns, and I'll have another expansion party, so I will recruit another Polemarch. This expansion party here, did I finish my research? Not yet. I have 1 turn left for alteration research. Archers, heavy infantry, and militia. Can I take them? I think I can take him. I'm actually going to turn off Holy Avenger, and I'm just going to tell him to attack closest in conjunction with his troops. So we'll go the distance. So there's Hinnom. They started on the edge of the water. Villains. Interesting. They must have recruited mercenaries. They are expanding very, very slowly, so I don't expect them to be a big threat. And this gang, those are Jaguar Tribe. I think Hoplites can take on Jaguar Tribe. Experience-wise, my Helots are in experience, 20s to 30s. Several of them have taken afflictions, but none of them are dead yet. Well, many of them have actually died, but none of those ones are dead. Once we've gotten our basic thugging research done, we'll then decide what to turn to next. Construction is a good one. Evocation is also a very good one for us. In Mekone, the Crypteion is underway. Hundreds of Helots have been massacred. The strict order of tyranny is restored in the city. So this one only procs sometimes. It didn't proc in one of my test games. I have lost my unrest. I've also lost some population, but that's okay. In Bright Woods, I have Locust Swarms, so I've lost unrest and gold. In the Barren Crags, let's see how our small giant army did with the commander helping them out. He is a combat caster, so once we've researched combat spells, he can cast in melee. And it looks like they're doing pretty solidly at massacring the enemy without taking much by way of damage. That is the benefit of very high protection. Those heavy infantry, you can see these commanders here, damage 16 plus a random roll is unlikely to beat protection 21 plus a random roll. So we move in on the archers, and the archers go down pretty quick. It looks like my Helot slingers did rout, or my Helot javeliners, rather. But that's okay. They didn't manage to get off the battle, so they'll come back. I lost 1 Helot hoplite, but no Giganti hoplites. These guys are so good. They are so powerful. In the Swamp of Solitude, I lost a Helot hoplite. I murdered all of the Jaguar tribe. In Bountiful Land, Hinnom attacked with their mercenary villains and were comprehensively thrashed at the cost of very, very little. So my income is quite low because I've been conquering all these places with high resources. My resource income is enormous. So we can now max out our recruitment of Giganti hoplites. You can see we can only get 4 per turn. And we can now start supporting them with more and more helots. We can either do peltasts or we can do hoplites. Or, more likely, we can do a couple and then spam out the rest as peltasts. One reason why you might not want to do this is, since your income is pretty low compared to your resources, you really need to be saving up money pretty quickly in order to get another fortress. I'm thinking that the Barren Crags are actually a terrible place for a fortress, because they have very little by way of recruitment points. The Bright Woods might not be a bad place. Decent resources, another wood right there, swamp right there. I have enough resources in Mekone now that I can think about sparing some for the Bright Woods. So Polygamnon is going to go over there to take that province. We'll recruit a commander here. While I'm thinking about it, I'm also going to pop some province defense in my provinces. Just 1 point for now. Okay, all done. There is another throne. That's Faircliff. I need a little bit more income, but I kind of want to keep up with the concentric motif I've got going here. Now, these two armies put together could probably take this throne unless there's some wizards there. Are we getting close to promoting anybody? We are getting close to promoting some of our helots, which will make them a little bit better. Let's swing. There's my scout. Let's actually bring the scout back in this direction. Swing Spirkios down south. And now that my research has finished, I can set him up to cast Stone Skin, which will boost his protection, as I said, to about 29. And that makes him almost invulnerable to standard human units. In fact, it does make him invulnerable to a lot of standard human units. With protection 29, he gets to roll, you know, a random number plus a random number between, I believe, 2 and 12, I think is the Dominion random number, plus his protection, versus an attack of, you know, a damage roll of 12 or 14 or 16 plus 12. It's not going to hurt him. It almost certainly won't unless they score a critical hit because he's been fatigued, which is possible, but unlikely. In here, I have enough of an army, or I will next turn, in order to get a new force. So, we're going to recruit a Polemarch, and we will get some more hoplites for him to lead. That will be our third expansion force, which will probably move in this direction and join Spirkios in taking out Myrene. Okay, so research in enchantment is completed. We're up to level 1, which isn't anything impressive. We need to be up to level 3 to get Fire Shield. That also allows us to get Claymen, which is an interesting little spell that a lot of nations can't cast, but we can with our Elder Cyclops. It will also let us cast Strength of Giants, which will be a very, very good buff for Helot Hoplites. So we'll keep doing that. In Gueladun, we did lose a Giganti Hoplite for, I think, the first time. They must have just gotten swarmed. Interesting. And in Silver Grove, we lost a Helot Ekdromos and nothing else. Spirkios is now a hero. He is valorous. This is the end of the Mekone unique event chain that they get. So the Crypteon has ended and the bloodshed is over for this year. An exceptional Cryptes was elected and rewarded for his deeds. So every year, I believe, at least until the mid-game, the Crypteon spawns a special hero for you, a special commander unit who is a Cryptes. And a Cryptes is a giant with all the giant stats who is also a stealthy assassin. He only starts with a dagger, but with the stats he has, it would be very easy to just slap a suit of magical armor on him and send him out assassinating people, because he has 22 piercing damage, 13 attack. I mean, he's honestly pretty solid. He can patrol for now to get unrest down. I'm tempted, just looking at him, to just forge him a black steel plate and, like, send him out. Black steel plate, black steel helmet. It would lower his defense by 1 and give him a little bit of encumbrance, but not much. Only 2. I mean, if you want to, you can even throw on a fire sword or a black steel sword or something. And he would be a wickedly dangerous assassin, especially because this early I have some earth gems and nothing in particular to spend them on. But research-wise, we have one more turn to go before we hit Enchantment 2. We are going to give Molios this army, and we will set it up just like the first, except we're actually going to tell them to hold and attack, because now we have to wait for the Polemarch to get his buff off. So Molios will be in the center of the line there, and he is going to cast Stone Skin, and then he is going to attack the closest enemy with his troops. I don't know why that happened. Since they're holding and attacking for 2 turns, I may want him to cast a second spell, which would probably be... Stone Skin gives you additional damage from cold, so if he's going to cast another spell, it might as well be Resist Cold. So Molios is going to move in this direction. Sparkios, who is now valorous and so has even more leadership, and is inspirational, leading his army to be more effective. That's still a Helot Hoplite. Boy, this poor Helot Hoplite, he has a chest wound and a limp. Wow, he ain't doing too well. Is going to move over here, take out those Wolf Tribe. Over here, have I promoted anybody? Yes, I have. You can see the little red helmets. So, Helot Ekdromos have basic morale of 7. Neodomode Ekdromos have basic morale of 11. This one in particular has Battle Fright, so ignore him. They also have, of course, 2 points of experience by virtue of having 50 experience. But, so they're actually very, very solid troops. When they don't have Battle Fright, at least. Who doesn't have Battle Fright? You don't have Battle Fright. Yeah, morale 14, which is pretty solid. Almost up there with the Giants. Polygamnon. Let's just keep expanding, brother. That is a farmland. Oh, good. High income. That's what I want. I need to start saving a little bit of money. You should be an E4. So I'm going to cut out everything but hoplites, I think. And we will start saving up a little bit of money so we can build a fort down here in Bright Woods. Actually, you should take that province first. No, I want the money. Go get the money. So it is late fall in the year 0. We're about to take 2 more provinces. So for late fall, our expansion has been pretty solid. We've been taking 2 provinces a turn for several turns now. We have now 10 provinces, and we still have 3 turns before the year ends. So by the end of the year, we could easily expect to have 16 or 17 or possibly 18 provinces, since we are about to throw out yet another expansion party. Alright, so we've... our one patrolling commander here has killed 6 brigands. In Ragdan, we lost a Helot Peltast and nothing else. In Sitala, we lost a Helot Hoplite and a Neodomode Ekdromos, which is, it happens. Neodomodes, Helots, they're designed to die. But we found a merman village, so we can actually recruit mermen here and go in and take out this Marrow province as well. So I might as well do that. They don't require much by way of resources, which is good because I have 0 resources here. And we have found Nifflheim. Distressing. Not too distressing, though. So, Sparkios and Molios are both going to attack this throne here. I don't know exactly what it has, but I know pretty much what it has. Basically what it has. What it has is a whole bunch of enemy troops. It might also have some wizards. So we're going to put both our commanders in line. Now, since Sparkios is sacred, not Sparkios, since Molios is sacred, he can be blessed. And the blessing, of course, will give him reinvigoration, which is a pretty decent deal. So Sparkios, instead of Resist Cold, his second spell is actually going to be Divine Blessing. Or, no, not Divine Blessing, because that takes a little bit longer. Just regular Blessing, and we will put him right next to his compadre up here. So the 2 of them will attack this province. I'm pretty certain they can take it, unless the wizards there are crazy dangerous. I could attack Nifflheim directly. They do have 2 Niffle Giants in their army. and I'm not sure Polygamnon and one badly wounded Giganti Ekdromos with no shield because he's lost an arm can take on 2 Niffle giants. So we're just gonna pump the defense here a little bit and leave Nifflheim be for the nonce. Down here, why aren't you still recruiting? Just recruit that forever, please. Keep getting them hoplites. I am actually, I think, going to take the time to forge my assassin a unit, a piece of equipment, rather. I'm also going to move out to start searching for magic sites. I'm going to send Akamas out to search. It is early winter, so it's about time to start picking up that old gem income. And then Titaresius, you can forge me black steel full plate or black steel plate. I think probably just black steel plate. It has less of a defense penalty and a map movement penalty. So forge a black steel plate for me, please. Okay, so research and enchantment is completed, and there was a battle in Myrene. So, this is actually a pretty significant army of Mekone. There is a lot of gold and resources tied up in these hoplites. On the other side of the field, we do have wizards. So we've got a 1 across the board wizard who is not terribly dangerous. We've got a 1 across the board wizard who is not terribly dangerous. And we've got a sorcerer with 2 blood who is pretty dangerous, especially because he does have some blood slaves. We also have a wolf tribe shaman, but nobody cares about him. So let's get this show on the road. Casting body ethereal and stuff. My skirmishers are going forward to skirmish. We've dropped the blessing, so our two Polemarches are probably going to be the stars here. So you can see this Polemarch has protection 27 because his current natural protection is 15. The Prophet also has protection 27. For some reason, the Prophet is susceptible to cold, and Mulios isn't. And I'm not sure why, but whatever. My skirmishers are being attacked by the wolf tribe, and I'm going to lose some of them, but the wolf tribe are not going to break through the hoplite line. They just aren't. The enemy wizards are summoning the undead, which they can't do for long because they fatigue out very quickly because they have low paths. So they are all fatigued out at the moment. The enemy infantry is running. This group of my infantry, including the Polemarches, has been stalled by the undead, but the other group of hoplites has actually gotten all the way around the back. They are getting hit by a couple of lightning bolts, but they are now murdering their way through the enemy infantry and guarding undead and distracting the wizards, so they are now sandwiched by my hoplites. Lightning bolts are bad, I don't like them, but they're not going to kill me. My troops are actually tough enough to survive a hit from a lightning bolt, and there the battle goes. I lost 1 Giganti Ekdromos, 7 of my 10 Helot Peltasts, because Helot Peltasts suck and I don't care if they die, and my Giganti Hoplites killed about 4 guys each and took 0 casualties. My Polemarches also killed 9 people. All of my Helot Peltasts that I don't care about got home, which is nice. So now I have the Throne of Pestilence. It increases death, and it spreads death in my dominion, which is bad. It does give me 3 death gems per turn, and I mean, it is a throne. I also have the White Man Hill here, which increases growth, so I think it's actually kind of a wash. So Sparkios is going to claim the throne here. You are going to search for magic sites, and you are going to attack that province. I have 429 gold. Since I am giants, I need 750 to build a fortress. So I am actually going to cancel my recruitment of troops for this turn. I have 8 units. I have an income of 686, which is not all that much. I'm going to give Sparkios' army to Mulios. I'm going to set them into a double line, I think, because I don't need them. Well, no, let's just set them into a single line. That way they can wrap around the enemy very well. Instead of resist cold, just attack. Just cast Stone Skin and then attack, will ya? And so Mulios, interesting. So Hinnom has expanded south very rapidly. They've got Avite Swordsmen and Avite Light Infantry, and they've got Horite Hunters and Horite Champions. I could go for Sodorth, which has a whole bunch of death. There must be a death site there. Or I could attack Hinnom just to show off some giant v giant action. Let's maybe do that. I don't have a second fort yet. Let's hold off right now. Let's just take out some neutrals. You move back into Hinnomite territory, kind of keep an eye on them, will you? I need to pop up some defense in my provinces. Hold, please. Alright, provinces defended. I am actually going to recruit another Polemarch here. If I don't recruit, I can start the fortress. Let's start the second fort, instead of recruiting a mage this turn. Research-wise, I'm going to hit enchantment level 3. It'll be about 3 turns. But that's fine. I can easily do that. And Mulios is going to claim a province, so we're back to taking 2 provinces a turn. You don your shiny new armor, instantly kicking your protection up to 15. Now, you're pretty dangerous, because you can't be killed very, very easily. You forge him... Should I forge a helmet? Yeah, let's forge the helmet. No, let's not forge the helmet. Go back to researching. And you can move out to try your hand at some assassinating. Alright, one of Polygamnon's units has died. We found a magic site in the Swamp of Solitude. It was the Enchanted Tower, so Earth Gems, excellent. I've claimed the Throne of Pestilence, which is kind of a bummer, actually, but it does give me Death Gems, so... that's good. In Sodorth, I took no casualties, wiping out the enemy defenses. In Ainedra, I did lose my Giganti Ekdromos, who was already very, very sad and very, very badly injured. But my Neodemode Hoplites are doing quite well for themselves. Certainly well enough. Mulios has gotten extraordinary agility, so he now has increased attack and defense. Fantastic. And he's also ambidextrous, so if I wanted to, instead of his gleaming Hoplon, I could give him 2 weapons, which would lower his defense probably, but would give him much, much more attack power. Sparkios can't quite go it on his own yet. Down here, we are going to recruit a Polemarch, as well as the usual set of hoplites. 12 hoplites and a Polemarch is plenty enough for an expansion gang. Sparkios is actually going to move, well, that's 70 units. He probably can't take on 70 units alone. But it is late winter, so this is the end of Year 0, which was as far as I really, really wanted to go. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this kind of gives you an idea of how Mekone works in the early game. Obviously, we have not gotten into their complicated magical strategy yet. Why are you mute? Oh, because you're old. Old people sometimes get afflictions when it becomes winter. It's just something you have to deal with. At least it's not one of the valuable ones. But I hope this gives you an idea of how Mekone works in the early game. Expansion parties of mainly giant hoplites are really good because they just don't suffer attrition. I mean, they don't really get hurt much by standard independence. They don't take a whole lot of damage. They gain experience very quickly because they're doing a lot of kills, so they get better and better over time. Polemarches are both excellent commanders, and they become excellent thugs, especially when they have experience. So sending them out with your expansion parties is, I think, a pretty decent way to start getting them experience. Later on in the game, you pair them up with priests who can bless them, or you get Shrouds of the Battle Saint to put on them to get your bless. They become very good combat mages as well as commanders, so having 1 or 2 or 3 with every major army is a good idea, because they can cast all the spells you really need in battle, and they can lead your troops and provide a big morale bonus, and they can fight. They can fight very effectively. You don't have to worry about your mages being assassinated in battle if your mages are Polemarches, because Polemarches can kick the crap out of most things that will try to attack them, with just 1 or maybe 2 buffs. So, things to think on. In the next episode of this, which will come in a few days, we'll be solidifying our expansion and probably going to war with Hinnom. We're going to get some sweet giant-on-giant action going on here. Hinnom is not going to like it, I don't think. Late game, Hinnom is very dangerous when they get their blood magic rolling and when they have Melkarts all over the place. Melkarts are some of the most dangerous units in the game. But early game, I don't think they can really stop heavily armored giant hoplites like this. I mean, their troops are not that good. So I feel like probably in the early game, if you can get spun up and take a whole lot of territory as quickly as you can, I think Mekone can probably run roughshod over Hinnom, possibly even Nifflheim, although Nifflheim's sacreds and their skin shifters would be tough to deal with. But in any case, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.